The Life Application Study Bible, King James Version, provides 131 personality profiles of biblical characters, both Old and New Testaments. Biblical characters of those whose roles in the Bible who were descendants or supported descendants in the genealogy line of our Lord, Jesus Christ. We can learn from their experiences. Their personality profiles includes strengths and accomplishments, weaknesses and mistakes, lessons from their lives. Personality profiles are in alphabetical, not chronological order, however, I will include significant information about each one when available. If you have comments or questions, feel free to include them below. If my video was insightful to you or you'd like to automatically receive next week's video, click on the like button below. Remember, like, comment, share. People who desire power always outnumber those who can use power wisely once they have it. Perhaps this is because power has a way of taking over and controlling the person using it. This is especially true in cases of inherited but unmerited power. Abimelech's life shows us what happens when the hunger for power corrupts judgment. Abimelech's position in Gideon's family as the son of a concubine must have created great tension between him and Gideon's many other sons. 1 against 70, such as can either crush a person or make him ruthless. It is obvious which direction Abimelech chose. Gideon's position as a warrior and judge had placed Abimelech in an environment of power. Gideon's death provided an opportunity for his son to seize power. Once the process began, disastrous results were inevitable. A person's thirst for power is not satisfied when he gets power. It only becomes more intense. Abimelech's life was consumed by that thirst. Eventually, he could not tolerate any threat to his power. By this time, ownership had changed, and Abimelech no longer had power, power had him. One lesson we can learn from his life is that our goals control our actions. The amount of control is related to the importance of the goal. Abimelech's most important goal was to have power. His lust for power led him to wipe out not only his brothers but also whole cities that refused to submit to him. Nothing but death could stop his bloodthirsty drive to conquer. How ironic that he was fatally injured by a woman. The contrast Abimelech and the godly people of the Bible is great. He wanted to control the nation, they were willing to be controlled by God. Strengths and accomplishments. The first self-declared king of Israel. Qualified tactical planner and organizer. Weaknesses and mistakes. Power-hungry and ruthless. Overconfident. Took advantage of his father's position without imitating his character. Had 69 of his 70 half-brothers killed. Vital statistics. Where, Shechem, Arumah, Thebez. Occupation, self-acclaimed king, judge, political troublemaker. Relatives, father Gideon. Only surviving brother Jotham. Key verses. Thus God rendered the wickedness of Abimelech, which he did until his father, in slaying his 70 brethren, and all the evil of the men of Shechem did God render upon their heads, and upon them came the curse of Jotham, the son of the Jerubbaal, Judges 9 verses 56 and 57. His story is told in Judges 8:31 to 9:57. He is also mentioned in 2 Samuel 11 verse 21. Background. Real heroes are hard to find these days. Modern research in the media has made the shortcomings and weaknesses of our leaders very apparent. We search in vain for men and women to emulate. The music, movie, and sports industries produce a steady stream of stars who shoot to the top and quickly fade from view. Judges is a book about heroes, 12 men and women who delivered Israel from his oppressors. These judges were not perfect, they included an assassin, a sexually promiscuous man, and a person who broke all the laws of hospitality. But they were submissive to God, and God used them. Judges is also a book about sin and its consequences. Like a minor cut or abrasion that becomes infected when left untreated, sin grows and soon poisons the whole body. The book of Joshua ends with the nation taking a stand for God, ready to experience all the blessings of the promised land. After settling in Canaan, the Israelites lost their spiritual commitment and motivation. When Joshua and the elders died, the nation experienced a leadership vacuum, leaving them without a strong central government. Instead of taking freedom and prosperity in the promised land, Israel entered the dark ages of her history. Simply stated, the reason for this rapid decline was sin, individual and corporate. The first step away from God was incomplete obedience. The Israelites refused to eliminate the enemy entirely from the land. This led to intermarriage, faith-wise, idolatry, and everyone doing what was right in his own eyes. Before long, the Israelites became captives. Out of their desperation, they begged God to rescue them. In faithfulness to his promise and out of his loving kindness, God would raise a judge to deliver his people, and there would be peace for a time. Then complacency and disobedience set in, and the cycle would begin again. The book of Judges spanned over 325 years, recording 6 successive periods of oppression and deliverance and the careers of 12 deliverers. Their captors included the Mesopotamians, Moabites, Philistines, Canaanites, Midianites, and Ammonites. God used a variety of deliverers. From off the nail to Samson. To lead his people to freedom and true worship. God's deliverance through the judges is a powerful demonstration of his love and mercy toward his people. Section B. The rescue of Israel by the judges, 3:5-16:31. 1. First period, Othniel. 2. Second period, Ehud and Shamgar. 3. Third period, Deborah and Barak. 4. Fourth period, Gideon, Tola, and Jair. 5. Fifth period, Jephthah, Ibzan, Elon, and Abdon. 6. Sixth period, Samson. Repeatedly we see the nation of Israel sinning against God and God allowing suffering to come upon the land and the people. Sin always has its consequences. Where there is sin, we can expect suffering to follow. Rather than living in an endless cycle of abandoning God and then crying out to him for rescue, we should seek to live a consistent life of faithfulness. My purpose for including this information is to 1. Shine light on the events taking place in Israel's history, and 2. Introduce you briefly to the role of Gideon, Abimelech's father. You will see the differences between the son's pride and the father's humility. The scriptures. Abimelech, the self-acclaimed king. Judges 8:31-9:57. 2 Samuel 11 verse 21. However, you will only be listening to chapter 9:1-56. Judges 9 verse 1. Abimelech's conspiracy. Then Abimelech the son of Jerubbaal went to Shechem, to his mother's brothers, and spoke with them and with all the family of the house of his mother's father, saying, 3. And his mother's brothers spoke all these words concerning him in the hearing of all the men of Shechem, and their heart was inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, He is our brother. 4. So they gave him 70 shekels of silver from the temple of Baal-berith, with which Abimelech hired worthless and reckless men, and they followed him. 6. And all the men of Shechem gathered together, all of Beth Millo, and they went and made Abimelech king beside the terebinth tree at the pillar that was in Shechem. 16. Now therefore, if you have acted in truth and sincerity in making Abimelech king, and if you have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done to him as he deserves. 18. But you have risen up against my father's house this day, and killed his 70 sons on one stone, and made Abimelech, the son of his female servant, king over the men of Shechem, because he is your brother. 19. If then you have acted in truth and sincerity with Jerubbaal and with his house this day, then rejoice in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. 20. But if not, let fire come from Abimelech and devour the men of Shechem and Beth Millo, and let fire come from the men of Shechem and from Beth Millo and devour Abimelech. 21. And Jotham ran away and fled, and he went to Beer and dwelt there, for fear of Abimelech his brother. 22. Downfall of Abimelech. After Abimelech had reigned over Israel 3 years. 23. God sent a spirit of ill will between Abimelech and the men of Shechem, and the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech. 24. That the crime done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might be settled, and their blood be laid on Abimelech their brother, who killed them, and on the men of Shechem, who aided him in the killing of his brothers. 25. And the men of Shechem set men in ambush against him on the tops of the mountains, and they robbed all who passed by them along that way, and it was told Abimelech. 27. So they went out into the fields, and gathered grapes from their vineyards, and trod them, and made merry. And they went into the house of their God, and ate and drank, and cursed Abimelech. 28. Then Gaal the son of Ebed said, Who is Abimelech, and who is Shechem, that we should serve him? Is he not the son of Jerubbaal, and is not Zebul his officer? Serve the men of Hamor the father of Shechem, but why should we serve him? 29. If only this people were under my authority, then I would remove Abimelech. So he said to Abimelech, Increase your army, and come out. 31. And he sent messengers to Abimelech secretly, saying, Take note. Gaal the son of Ebed and his brothers have come to Shechem, and here they are, fortifying the city against you. 34. So Abimelech and all the people who were with him rose by night, and lay in wait against Shechem in 4 companies. 35. When Gaal the son of Ebed went out and stood in the entrance to the city gate, Abimelech and the people who were with him rose from lying in wait. 38. Then Zebul said to him, Where indeed is your mouth now, with which you said, Who is Abimelech, that we should serve him? Are not these the people whom you despised? Go out, if you will, and fight with them now. 39. So Gaal went out, leading the men of Shechem, and fought with Abimelech. 40. And Abimelech chased him, and he fled from him, and many fell wounded, to the very entrance of the gate. 41. Then Abimelech dwelt at Arumah, and Zebul drove out Gaal and his brothers, so that they would not dwell in Shechem. 42. And it came about on the next day that the people went out into the field, and they told Abimelech. 44. Then Abimelech and the company that was with him rushed forward and stood at the entrance of the gate of the city, and the other 2 companies rushed upon all who were in the fields and killed them. 47. And it was told Abimelech that all the men of the tower of Shechem were gathered together. 48. Then Abimelech went up to Mount Zalmon, he and all the people who were with him. And Abimelech took an axe in his hand and cut down a bough from the trees, and took it and laid it on his shoulder. Then he said to the people who were with him, What you have seen me do, make haste and do as I have done. 49. So each of the people likewise cut down his own bough and followed Abimelech, put them against the stronghold, and set the stronghold on fire above them, so that all the people of the tower of Shechem died, about 1,000 men and women. 50. Then Abimelech went to Thebez, and he encamped against Thebez, and took it. 52. So Abimelech came as far as the tower and fought against it, and he drew near the door of the tower to burn it with fire. 53. But a certain woman dropped an upper millstone on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. 55. And when the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, they departed, every man to his place. Judges 9 verse 56. Thus God repaid the wickedness of Abimelech, which he had done to his father by killing his 70 brothers. Who should have absolute power on the earth? Do you think power gained under any circumstances will be successful in the long run? To whom, when, why, and how should power or authority be gained? Do you think God's reaction to Abimelech's actions was appropriate? If you agree, do you think God should render people's actions and behavior useless for justice's sake? If you do, or do not, agree, share your opinion in the comments below. Do you know of anyone whose power should be rendered useless?
1 Corinthians 15 verses 1 to 11, New King James Version. The risen Christ, faith's reality. If I don't share the gospel with you, then we just shared information. My purpose for publishing the 131 personality profiles is to A. Share the gospel and B. Remind you it's not impossible to grow in godly wisdom and truth. Background information: Apostle Paul wrote the book of 1 Corinthians around 55 AD in the city Ephesus near the end of his third missionary journey. 15 Moreover, brethren, I declare to you the gospel which I preached to you, which also you received and in which you stand, 2 By which also you are saved, if you hold fast that word which I preached to you, unless you believed in vain. 3 For I delivered to you first of all that which I also received, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day according to the Scriptures, 5 And that he was seen by Cephas, then by the 12. 6 After that he was seen by over 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain to the present, but some have, fallen asleep. 7 After that he was seen by James, then by all the apostles. 8 Then last of all he was seen by me also, as by one born out of due time. 9 For I am the least of the apostles, who am not worthy to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. 10 But by the grace of God I am what I am, and his grace toward me was not in vain, but I labored more abundantly than they all, yet not I, but the grace of God which was with me. 11 Therefore, whether it was I or they, so we preach and so you believed.
The next Bible personality profile would be on Abimelech, Book of 1 Kings. Her story is told in 1 Kings 1:1:4, 2:13-24. Chosen for her youth and beauty, Abimelech found herself one day the live-in nurse of the great but elderly King David. Her job was to keep the ailing king warm.